Uh, you know what happened?
What happened? We're live.
We're live. It's Tuesday, and we got
We're
employee number one here. Andy. Andy, where'd Andy go?
I'm
He's
back.
coming.
Take it away.
What time is it? What time is it? It's prime time. It's prime time. What time is it? What time is it? Prime time. It's prime time. Oh yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guitar geeks around the world, welcome to prime time.
They're here.
They're here.
We're here. It's Tuesday. Tonight, special guest, employee numero uno, Mr. Tim. Tim, what's up? How you doing? Welcome to Primetime. Say hello to Lindsay Love. Lindsay.
What's up,
Lindsay.
guys? What's up?
Mr. Parkin.
Me. We did it. I'd like to take a break real quick before we get going and say we're on episode 27.
Wow.
We did 27 things. How do you guys feel about that? Yeah, exactly. All right. Now that we're all energized, we did 27 things, and you sang the song almost 27 times.
That feels like it. I agree with that. I agree.
Yeah.
It feels like 27 times.
It feels like 27 times. So what better than on the 27th show to have the employee number one,
That's awesome.
Tim.
Makes sense to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Primetime. Jay, are you wearing the Cincinnati Reds hat? Because no, I'm not wearing it because of that, Evan. No, you know why I'm wearing a Reds hat? I'm wearing a Reds hat because there's a potential that my big brother is watching the show, and Johnny Bench is the greatest catcher of all time, and he basically wore that into my little pea-sized brain when I was a kid. So I figured, hey, Joe's watching, so I might as well put on a hat. Maybe he's watching, maybe he's not. Maybe he already clicked, all right, this is enough. But whatever, he was here for a minute. Whatever. Yeah, we got Tim Lawrence. I pronounced it right, and we'll get into that in a minute. On the show tonight, he is Taylor Guitar's employee number one. The topic for tonight's show is just a little bit of story time. We're going to hear Tim has the greatest stories probably of anybody who's ever, well, there are a lot of storytellers at Taylor, but you got some great stories, Tim. Welcome to Taylor Primetime.
Thank you, Jay. It's an honor to be here. It's a big honor to be here.
It is. We got to talking yesterday, and then we didn't stop talking. Later, it was like an hour later, we had been on the phone, and we're excited to do tonight's show. So this is a gift to all of you loyal Primetime viewers. We're like a Primetime club. So this is a gift to you. We're just going to have some story time today, and I hope you enjoy this. But before we kick the show off, we have a couple of segments. We love these segments. And the first segment, you guys know it. You guys know it real well. Hug your haters. We have a hug your haters, kind of. We have a show the love tonight.
Yeah, that's more like it.
Okay. Andy?
Everybody needs a hug these days. Maybe now more than ever. Remember, keep your hugs distant or virtual. Don't gather in crowds. Exhale politely. Hunter had a GT. He could not put it down. He found a missing chunk near from where out came the sound. Thanks for not freaking out. You certainly could have. Our dude handled the call like he should have. Hunter, thanks for showing the love and understanding. Love, understanding.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow. You sung the letter.
You sung the letter.
You sung the
We got a really great letter from Hunter this last week. I think. Do you want to read the letter so that they know what's in the letter, Lindsay? Do you want to read it?
Yeah, I mean,
Let's read it.
Unless
Let's read
Andy,
it. I
unless
mean-
Andy wants to. I mean, it's right.
All right, you just sang it, so let's read the
All right,
letter
here
so
we-
that they get it.
There's a few things to fill in inside there. So
Yeah. So we got a letter from Hunter, and the subject line said, "Love your haters, returning my Taylor GT." And he says, "Hey guys, I figured I'd write in. So on that subject at hand, I bought a new GT the other day after you guys released it. It's a great guitar, and until recently, the only problem I had with it was that I couldn't seem to put it down. This weekend, though, I noticed a big problem with the guitar. There was a fairly large gap between the fretboard and the body of the guitar, and a chunk of the top had fallen off in the rosette at the end of the fretboard. Needless to say, it's pretty far from the excellent fit and finish on my other Taylors. The guitar was kept in the case, never mistreated or neglected, and with a humidifier and a hygrometer. So I reached out to the customer service department this morning and talked to one of your representatives and sent them pictures of the problem. The way the situation was handled was a bit shocking. I didn't have to wait on hold. Your representative was incredibly helpful, nice, well-informed, and understanding of my situation, and had a solution for me quickly. It's far from what I've come to expect from customer service, especially when dealing with warranty issues. It is phenomenal to know that your customer service is just as great as your guitars. I can't say enough to thank you guys or praise your company. It really is top notch."
Wow.
cool.
Hunter is from Colorado. And my big brother lives in Colorado, so I
Wow.
got two hats.
Got all
Huh?
the bases covered.
Yeah, I got two hats. So I'm wearing Rocky's hat right now, as you can see, for Colorado. Hunter, this hat is for you, Hunter. All right. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
We got another segment. Do we have music for this yet?
Yeah, sure.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you listening to? This is a new segment, Tim. Here's how this goes. You're just going to tell us what you're listening to, as in music, but we'll get there in a second because he's got another song.
What's new? What is new? What are you listening to? What are you listening to?
Oh, man. That was better than last week. I'm just going to throw that out there.
That was so good.
He's talented.
I mean, that was so good. I think it would be only fair to not start with you because you're so musical, Andy. And we're going to go to Tim. Tim, what music are you listening to right now? You got a couple of records you're listening to, or some songs, or some people? What's going on in your music world?
I actually just played Jethro Tull album yesterday.
Nice.
Oh,
It was
Tull.
really, yeah. It's
Which
kind of-
one?
What record?
Actually, it's a masters. It's one that they remastered all the supposedly greatest hits, which I guess it is.
Greatest hits.
It's a compilation, but it's on vinyl.
All right, okay.
I'm all
You're
into
fine.
vinyl. I'm all into vinyl. And
You're
if
all
I
good.
listen to other things, well, it bounces around. There's definitely some Dead on Sirius Radio when I'm driving, and then a lot of Neil. But I mean, I just bounce. Beatles. Never get tired of.
Yeah.
It's kind of pops up, and then you do that and keep moving. Moody Blues. My wife loves Moody Blues, and Michael Franks, another good one we like. Sade. I mean, we're older, so
Are you?
Yeah, I actually am.
Oh, I would have never, ever known.
It's good to know that.
Lindsay, what are you listening to?
Yeah. Well, something a little bit older. I've been jamming to Luther Vandross's "Never Too Much" album, and specifically that song. Been kind of playing through that song, "Never Too Much." It's amazing. It's a work of art, and really fun on guitar. And then new song. An artist named Jasmine Sullivan released a single called "Pick Up Your Feelings," and it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Pick up your feelings.
Wow.
Your feelings. Yeah.
Andy, what are you listening to?
Before I say that, I just want to say, Tim, it's really nice to see you, man. I was looking forward to this show.
Thank
I
you.
miss you.
I miss you too. I miss the company.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show, man. And I just learned how to pronounce your name tonight.
Really?
Right, yeah.
New choices.
Did you just give up with that, or?
Well, okay, here's the story.
We're jumping in.
Hold on, I'm jumping off.
We're jumping in. We're jumping in.
Avishai Cohen. Can you see that?
No.
It's an
No.
ECM record.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
I don't know if he's a trumpeter, and the guys in this band are all obviously from like a jazz background, but it's a trumpet player, electric bass, drummer, guitar, and live sampling
Wow.
that's in the band, and just super cool. Like, I don't know, Lindsay, maybe you're familiar with some of the ECM releases, but they're just super pure music. It's all about the art, and there's a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
bass and ambient, and that's the label that's run by Manfred Eicher, and everything on ECM is just precious. And this is an all instrumental record that I've been really digging. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, but the album is called Big Vicious.
That's all you're listening to? Come on.
Well, I think I already took enough time, Jay.
Okay, fine. I got two, possibly three, but I got two, but they'll be quick. One, I've been listening to a lot of Ella and Louis. Weird, right? I don't, and I put it on, and it's great. And you know what? My brother and I share a love for metal. We do. And so I've gone polar opposite and been listening to a lot of High on Fire. So I promised him metal. He got his metal. There we go. All right. What's next? Should we dive into this whole thing?
Yeah.
So let's dive into Tim. Before we get into the pronunciation of your name, Tim, this is a segment of the show we call What the Heck Are You? What the heck do you do? We're not going to do that because you're retired. Okay? You're retired. And so we changed this segment to What the Heck Did You Do? So, Tim, what the heck did you do at Taylor Guitars for 36 years?
36, not counting the beginning.
He covered up his face with a computer now.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I screwed up. My son told me, he flashed back. He said, "You're not looking at the camera enough." Trying to see you guys and see the camera, which is remote. So, anyway, but what did I do? Well, there's not much I didn't do actually, except program CNCs. So I would say I was hired to run the finish department because their third partner, Steve, who they removed from the company in 83, was the finisher. And so I took that up because I had done that for Greg Deering and Jeff Stelling building banjos. And so I started finishing. But then Bob and I made an agreement at the beginning that I was not going to just be a finisher because that to me was just a little too limiting. No offense to finishers. I love Chris Carter. But nonetheless, so I would final assembly the guitars in the afternoon. Well, it ended up being that Larry Breedlove and I became final assembly as Bob started just doing tooling, and building jigs. And so then I moved from supervising finish, which we hired a gentleman, Steve Baldwin, who retired quite a while ago. And I was kind of his supervisor, but I was also assembling and fretting, and Larry and I did that together. And then of course, ended up being final assembly, and then they put me in repair. I was the only repair guy for the world, or at least for the factory at one point, and customer service all at once. And I did that, but then I would jump back into final assembly when we were in trouble, which could happen many times. I'm talking back now into maybe like 5 years in. And so I did that. And then of course I did all the NAMM shows, most all of them, and for years, and got to do that end of it. So I sold guitars at the NAMM shows, and then let's see what else. So I was customer service. I was eventually ended up being that I got broke out of final assembly and into the repair department, which we finally established one. And I stayed in there until Art Taylor. And then I did Art Taylor for 5-6 years. Lindsay helped me in that at the end. And then I went back into repair. Oh, and also in when I was first in repair, I was the artist tech, which was great because I got to work with all the artists myself, like Jewel when she was coming up, Holtz, America, I mean, all of them, Loggins and Messina, anybody that came around, Jackson Brown, I got to do all that. So that was really probably it was as fun as Art Taylor, which was the top of my career. So does that answer it? I think.
Oh my goodness.
I did
You just
everything.
told it. So basically you wrote the HR handbook.
I worked in the body department when I had to, and I worked in the neck department when I had to, and I did
So
I think the names. Wait, can we back up just a second here?
Yeah.
He just covered like 45 years in what he said, but like the names that he dropped: Stelling, Breedlove, and Jeff, and Deering.
Yeah.
Right. That's to me, that's such an interesting part of the story. All of those people, along with Bob, all started together here in Southern California.
Jeff never worked with us, but he was interested in what Greg could do, so they partnered originally, and then and that lasted for a couple 2-3 years. Greg hired me. I didn't know Jeff until then, but I did see him come by the Dream a couple times before Taylor, obviously, and then so they made a partnership, and then they went their own separate ways, and I stayed with Jeff because he was able to pay me more at the time, and but hats off to both of them, and I love Greg. We're great friends.
Yeah.
all right. So let's go. Let's take everyone down this virtual timeline. When did you start working with Bob and Kurt?
Well, let's go back to the American Dream a little bit. It was a hippie shop. Sam Radding was the owner. His brother, Gene, owned a music store over on College Ave. And in the window, there was a handmade guitar. I had tried to, in college, I'm 2 years into college, and I wanted to buy a Martin D18, but I couldn't afford it. It was $550, which was, at that time, ridiculous amount of money. So I found out from Gene that his brother made guitars in Lemon Grove, and so and they were half the price of that. So I went over and met Sam. I ordered a guitar. I worked in a car wash to pay for it that summer. And then the guitar wasn't that well made because it was not made by Sam. And so I came to the Dream a lot, and I basically weaseled my way into convincing Sam to give me a bench, which was kind of like getting hired. But there was no minimum wage paid. It was an illegal business. It was a co-op guitar making business.
Awesome.
And so I was there for about a year, not quite a year, before Bob walked in. Bob and Kurt walked in. Bob graduated from high school, and he walked in right before he graduated. So he's 18 years old. So this would have been 73. And so he graduates high school, summer 73. So he comes in, and he has already made guitars. So Sam hires him immediately. And he's obviously got chops. And so we're at benches next to each other. Well, just so happens that I had an opportunity to go to Hawaii, being an avid surfer. So I left, and Sam, being my buddy now, said, well, we won't take your bench from you. When you come back, you can have it back. So I left, and Bob Taylor was learning from Sam how to build a guitar. Come back 3 months later, and Bob is kicking ass. I mean, he's really doing well, and has established a corner in the shop that is impressive. And so that's how I met. And Kurt came in a little later. He came in the Dream a little later than Bob, probably that summer, the same time, a few months. And we were just friends and got to know each other because Kurt was a finisher. He was doing finish with his friend Steve, who became a partner. And we just hung out, and we were kids and young adults. And that's how it started.
So do you remember?
Go
Do
ahead.
you remember the when it all went down? When it all went down, and they, Bob and Kurt raised capital.
Yeah, they borrowed money from Kurt had some money from his parents. Bob borrowed mostly, I think, from his grandfather. I hope I'm right here, and from his parents too. And they bought Sam out. I don't really know the amount, but it wasn't that much. And so they basically bought this. The building was just rented, and so they were buying the machines and the wood, and and they said, we're going to all hire you guys that want to work on guitars. Let's just stay and make a company. So that was October Taylor Day in 1974. And so we stayed until they ran out of money. I mean, they had some money budgeted for, because Kurt was always the guy with the money, his brain was working that way. So they budgeted, and then they said, well, we're going to have some for this and that and pay our employees, but we had no sales. I mean, who's going to buy guitars from us? The Dream was set up like a hippie thing where people walked in off the street. They may have been, told to go there by Gene ratting over in the music store. And we just made one-offs, but to manufacture, that's a whole nother level. And I mean, if you can imagine Bob Taylor at 18, Kurt at 21, and they're starting Taylor guitars. That's amazing.
That's incredible. There's some conversation over here in the feed. You said that D18 was $550. Today that equates to $3,073, right?
Oh.
So to answer the question about how much they bought the American Dream for, it was $3,000, and 1,500 of that was debt that Sam had to Gibson for some wood or some parts or something.
Right.
And the other 1,500 was for his pocket. So I believe if that's what I believe the story is, Bob and Kurt did the podcast with us, and I remember the story pretty clearly. And I think in total they raised 10 grand. So they had just enough money to take over. But on the first day, if I'm right, the floor flooded, didn't it?
It did. October rain in San Diego is rare. But the drainage at Leicester Street was very poor. And so, yes, the first day we were cleaning up wet sawdust since we had no collector. And whenever we cut wood or did anything there were two bungalows, each were 1,500, connected with a door between them, little garages. And the second one flooded worse than the first one, but it was bad. So we cleaned up muck, the first day. It was interesting. Good start.
So how did the first 3 months go?
Well, I mean, as I remember, we were just trying to figure out how to make a business. I mean, we didn't have any sales, so we were building guitars and we were trying to make a model or something, or hoping that people would come in and buy from us like they had from Sam. It was ill planned because we did, I mean, what can you do? Just the energy level though was fantastic. I mean, the Dream was a great place. Everybody hung out there. We played music at night, parties. It was, but now all of a sudden, and I think that the acoustic market was already starting to kind of slow a little bit. I don't remember that part of it yet. Maybe that was a little later, but all I know was they had not enough sales to support paying employees and taxes, like, Social Security and all that, and workman's comp. And they tried. I mean, they were going to do it right. So, let me just say this. Sam knew it was an illegal business, so he was glad to leave it because there had already been some kind of, undercurrents about, people had gone to the labor board and said, well, this is how this thing runs. And Sam was like, no, I got to get out of this. And so they were going to start clean. And Kurt was always about, we're going to do everything right, and they did. They did.
And he did. So the first 3 months, and what
It was
happened in January 1975?
Well, then we met after the holidays and they came back into work. And I don't know I think we maybe did shut down for 2 weeks, just like we do now, but we had a decent holiday. I remember. And then we came back and they're just like, well, you guys all have to leave. I mean, that was Greg Deering and me too. I mean, we have no more money. And so we can't pay you anymore. So then they hunkered down, and I mean, I was like, okay, well, I'll just go do something else. I made dulcimers and sold. I made dulcimer. I was living in OB. Here's another. How about $145 a month for rent in OB for an apartment? I know. Money was worth more than that. So, and everybody's driving Volkswagen Bugs, and so gas is 35 cents a gallon. Now it had gone up to 70. That was kind of frightening. Had the gas tank that one day. Still.
How much was the price of a burrito back then in El Cajon?
$1.65 was our favorite burrito. Bob and I, that he turned me onto the chicken and bean burrito. That was I love to this day. If you can find the taco shop that makes it right. You know,
so $1. So in January 1975, you get canned. Can we say that? Laid off? You didn't get fired.
Good. That's exactly what it was. There was no firing involved. I mean, they didn't want us to go.
Right.
They did not want us to go. They were like, we're defeated a little bit, but we'll just regroup. You know, and the three of them just carried on, the three partners at the time.
So you leave. What did you do in between? Because you came back to eventually you came back to Taylor. What did you do in between?
Well, I had my little place in OB and had a little bitty garage, which was amazing. And so I made dulcimers and sold them in the park and whatever, or went to festivals. And I also had a job with a contractor he taught me how to use an airless. And so I was painting houses for him. They weren't new houses. They were cleanups. You know, he'd go into a house and we'd fix it and then sell it and then put it on the owner would just hire us to make it good so we could move on, whatever. And so I did that. I cleaned carpets. I mean, I was like, that's not fun. But nonetheless, I got by, somehow. And then, here's a funny one. One time during that year, Kurt called me up and he goes, we'd like to have you come back and work for us. And I went, no, I'm doing good. I'm all right. Because I really thought, honestly, they probably were not going to make it. I mean, it was pretty sad. But then again, 21, 19 years old, maybe Bob was 19 by then, Kurt 22. I mean, not an easy world to start a business in, but so I was like, nah, I'm just going to hang out at the beach and surf and make dulcimers. I turned Kurt down, actually. It was kind of interesting. And
so what made you say yes? Like, what made you change your mind?
Okay, so Greg called me and he says, hey, Greg Deering, he called me and he said, I'm working with this guy, Jeff Stelling, and he's got some really good patentable ideas. He's making a great banjo. He needs me to do all the woodwork because he's doing all the rim, the tone rings and the pots, and he's doing all that, but he needs us to build the banjo. So he goes, I said, okay. And I showed up and he goes, I can only pay you, $2.50 an hour, or whatever it was then, minimum wage, but I'll give you a raise once we get going, So I was like, good, I'll go. Cause I was dating my wife, Mary Jo, at the time. And I was like, I need a real job, I can't just make dulcimers and do this, I have to get something. So Greg hired me and then I stayed with him for 2 years and then Jeff and him split, Jeff Stelling, and Jeff offered me much more money than Greg at the time. And, Jeff was more well-established and older, he had an officer in the military and the Navy and he had some money. And so he was like, and, we had a product and, Greg didn't even have a product yet. So Greg had to go off and start his company. And so I stayed with Jeff for 5 more years. And then Jeff was going to move back to Virginia. And right about that time, he was getting divorced from his wife, Gretchen. And all of a sudden, Kurt calls me up and goes, hey, why don't you come to dinner with us? We're going to take you out to pizza. And so I went over there and we had pizza. And he goes, we're buying our partner out, Steve. And I had been by there over the years. Bob had let me build guitars. I built a guitar over there to pay for the birth of my son, Joe. We had a home birth and I needed money. So he let me build the guitar and he said, just do some finish work for us. Just do some finish work and you can build a guitar. I'll give you the wood. So I had a buddy of mine that worked for the phone company. He had a decent income and wanted me to make him a guitar. So I did, and paid for the birth of my kid. So I'd made a couple guitars over there. I'd come by and check out what they were doing and help them out a little bit. And they'd let me use the shop. And so then eventually they called me and we went to dinner that time and they said, how'd you like to come work for us? And so that was in 1983, the beginning of the year, 9 years later.
Wow.
1983.
Yeah.
Man, what were you doing in 1983, Lund?
I was in college.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's impressive. Well, Lindsay, what were you doing in 1983?
Whew, I wasn't even thought of.
Well, there's that answer. All right.
Let me add one more, and if I don't remember what I was just thinking, it was so the day that I walked into Taylor Guitars in 83, there were 4 people there. Bob, Kurt, me, and one other employee who left rather soon. 4 people.
And now we have north of 1,000.
So he was
Globally.
numero uno twice.
Yes, I was. I was a founding member. I didn't really
You were a
realize.
founding member.
Found
There you go.
it.
All right. So let's go back to what Andy asked a little bit earlier in the show. He mentioned something, but so you retired from Taylor Guitars. So the main chunk, you would say, you told me 36 years, correct?
Right, 36.
And that entire time, no one pronounced your name correctly.
Oh, Bob did. He knows what the name is. So here's the name. So I was raised with the name Larank. That's how we pronounced it. But my grandfather, because he was from Europe, the name is Lurance. Well, I always liked Lurance better, but I tried to change it and it never really totally worked. So now I just go, well, it's either one. Taylor, I'm Larank. Bob's not going to take anything else. And that's fun. And so either way works for me. Lurance, it's just a soft C. It's the same pronunciation. Just pretend there's an E on the end. So you can call me Lurance.
When did you discover that your name was pronounced Lawrence? Did you always? I mean,
I knew
feel
it. I knew it from the time I was young because my grandfather, who was Polish, he pronounced it that way. He never went the other way. But the kids all did it because they wanted to be American. You know, they never changed the spelling. Actually, the name is French. It's a French name, but they pronounced it because in French it would be Laurent, you know, but they pronounce it with the Polish, which is soft C. And I hope I'm right there. If there's Polish people out there, they're going to call in and correct me, but this is as much as I can learn about it. So the C is the CE in Polish. So, but I love the way that sounded better. To me, it sounded better. It was easy for me to say it, but Larank is me, you know, too. So it's good.
Raven said it's French, Laurent, which is funny because I've heard.
If we're going to go for, but see, he was in Poland, you know. So
I've heard so many different pronunciations. Larank, Laurent.
Yeah.
And then when I called and left a message the other day, it said, "You've reached Tim Laurence," and I said, "What? No." So I had to call it out on the show, of course.
No, that's cool because I mean, people are confused.
I love it.
So, but you know, either one works. You know, just pretend it has an E on it or don't, and just pronounce all the letters.
All right, all right. So we'll keep going. Employee number 1. That's what we're gonna call you. So employee number 1. I got 2 questions. What is the best thing you learned from Bob Taylor in 36 years?
You're never done. I mean, I came in we had a really good system at Stelling, and we were way ahead of Taylor in sales, and believe it or not, this is in the late 70s, early 80s. And we had our system and we were happy with it. And then, you know, and when I came over to Taylor, it'd be like, you know, Bob said, okay, we're going to make 10 guitars a week, 2 a day. So then the second, you know, he goes to me like within a month, he goes, we're going to try 11. And I went, 11? Well, you're only paying me for 10. And he goes, we're going to grow and we're going to get better. And we're going to make a lot more guitars than 10 a week. And I went, okay, got it. You know, I'm there, you know, but it just took a little bit of mindset because I didn't realize Bob is never done. And that's the difference is that, and I learned in Taylor that how to no, I don't want to manufacture. I'll make some guitars on my own. There's no doubt. But I just want to I want to just make some things that I want to make just to see what happens, for fun. And I'm going to sell them too, I hope. But nonetheless, Bob just never, his vision was never like, oh, we're done now. Okay, it's over. We're making this many a month and we're happy with the way we make them. Never. See, that's his genius, is that it's never over and it's always moving forward.
Yeah. So my follow-up question is, what is the best thing you learned from Kurt in 36 years?
Kurt is absolutely 100% honest, and he has integrity, and he's a good friend. He's a very dear friend to me, and he knows how to run a business. He knows how to treat people good. I mean, in the early days, we would do repairs for free. A lot of times people would send a guitar back. We still do it. I mean, Lindsay knows this, but we would do amazing amount of stuff for nothing, just because we wanted the people to be happy. Kurt was like, we just want to be like they love, we want to give them a good feeling about their purchase. And so he always has been obviously he's not as prominent as Bob in the company, but people don't realize what a genius he is too, in the way he's developed the branding of the company. What we've become is really more Kurt. The sales, the integrity, and the customer service, which we're obviously the best in the world. Nobody even gets close to us. And that's what I've learned from Kurt.
Yeah, I learned that on the podcast when I had Cameron and I had Bob and Kurt on, that Kurt actually named the company, which was, and he said, Taylor is a good old fashioned American name and it sounds good and it looks good on headstock. He always with forthright and thinking about how things are going to affect us 10, 20 years, 30 years in the future. He's both of them.
Yeah. And it was Westland Music, because at the beginning, and when they took over, they were like, well, we don't want to give Bob all the credit, even though he was the builder, obviously. We want to all share it. These are the three partners now at that point. And so they made this generic name, but it didn't work. So they changed it. Kurt recognized that.
Yeah. So you were through all of it. So I started working, almost 5 years ago, I met you. I believe I took one of your factory tours. By the way, if we ever have a chance to open the factory back up and we can do factory tours again, it would be awesome for you to just pop in there and give a tour every once in a while, because you're really good at it.
I would love to do that.
It's fantastic to be with employee number one doing a factory tour is quite spectacular. But before we get into Q&A, I kind of want to just talk about Taylor's evolution. Where we were then, and you've seen it, you saw it. I mean, you retired last year, correct? If I'm right.
I retired in January of 18.
January of 8. It's been that long.
Wait. 19.
19. Okay.
I don't remember. My life's been a little confused lately, but
a burrito used to cost $1.65. They fired you in January 1975.
Let me think. I gotta get this right. Yeah, 18. Okay, yeah. I retired in 19. I came back for one day, just cleaned my bench out, and yeah, it was the beginning in 19.
Okay, so the evolution. I mean, you've got a pretty incredible guitar or two hanging out behind you. One of them is what? Now, 1936 Martin?
Oh no, it's a 1913, and the story.
1913.
You want to hear that guitar story and the origin of the grand concert?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to hear that? Okay, so I get this guitar, and the neck has been completely destroyed. But a friend of mine is a piano tuner, older gentleman. He's still alive, but he's close to 100, and he's a piano tuner. And he said, I had a whole bunch of guitars, wanted me to come look at. He bought this thing at a yard sale, like for, I don't know. He said, first he told me $50, but then he said $5 another time I talked to him. But nonetheless, the neck was stepped. It was not good. And he didn't really know how to do it, so he made it worse. So he shows me this guitar. It's up on his rafters in garage in Chula Vista, and I'm like, I see the binding on the edge, and I see the ab, and I go, holy crap! So I get up there and I take it down, and he's already taken the neck off, and there's binding missing, and there's this and that, but the body's basically pretty safe. I mean, it's nothing. The arches are good, everything's good, and so he says, take it from me, and give me a guitar. And this is the early days of Taylor. And he goes, and I'll just make me a playable guitar and you can have it. So I went and got hold of Martin, and they got me in. I was working at Stelling at the time, actually, when I got the guitars before Taylor. So I had the body, and Jeff Stelling knew, the guys at Martin, and he got me a neck blank. And so I made a neck for it. And then eventually, over many years, I put it back together. It's unfortunate that it doesn't have the original neck, but who has a freaking 1913 0045? Sounds ridiculous. Lawrence Juber said, I would take this and record with an album with it. And I said, no, you can't take it, Lawrence, sorry. It's that kind of thing. Dan Curry goes, this is the most amazing guitar I've ever played. So, I mean, it's like one of those things. It still sounds like that guitar, even if the neck is a reproduction.
Definitely.
Nonetheless, so we took that guitar. Bob goes, bring in your triple O. We got to make a small body. So I bring it in, and me and Larry Breedlove, who, by the way, is a side note, was my friend through high school. So I brought Larry Breedlove to Stelling and Deering, and then also back to Taylor. And you know what he did for the company. So he was my buddy way before the company. We were surfers together. So anyway, so we bring that back in, and we take Bob lays it out. I can see it now. We lay the body out. It's got no neck on it, just the body. And we draw a template off of it. And then we start working it. We go, well, this is a 12 fret joint. We got to do a 14. So we move that down to the 14th fret. And then we're going, the butt's a little, the lower butt's a little fat. Let's just pull it in. And we're all talking about it. And we're drawing it with, stuff. And he goes, okay, let's make a grand concert. And so just by the chance, I have one here, and I don't know how you're going to see this, but this is the prototype. Look at the peg head on that. There's decoupaged Bob and Kurt. Bob's got a beard. Do you want me to move that closer?
Holy cow.
Okay, so this guitar is the Bob head. I named it that. Kurt's on there too. This guitar has been in high school plays and has been, look at the bridge. Wow. This was Larry and I took this as a prototype, and
that neck
it became a shop guitar, and then basically I stole it from the company. They know that.
That's the most metal Taylor I've ever seen, baby. I'm really
that
into
whole
it.
paddle, the extension, the neck extension.
Yeah, look, that is insane to fret, by the way.
It looks insane.
I've never refretted it, because who wants to make those frets? You can't edge them, You can't edge those frets. It's totally Larry.
Strum a chord on it.
This thing, and the inlays were the tails of the Artist series guitar that we inlaid into it. The Artist was a big breakthrough for us, which is another story. And that was a really big breakthrough, the Prince and the whole thing that we did, Prince's guitar. But so this thing, it was the shop guitar, and Larry didn't play like me. So don't drop it. It's been in high school plays. It's been in Mexico. It's been camping. It's been around, and it's the most collectible Taylor ever. And I own it. Well, actually, Kurt and Bob own it, but they gave it to me. So.
This is so good. Okay, so one last thing, we'll dive into some Q&A and keep the show going. We could talk forever with you, Tim. It's so spectacular.
You always have me back. It's not.
I think we definitely need a part 2. All right, so Taylor's evolution. So we go from that grand concert to now. Bob brings Andy Powers in.
Right.
He's not the man building guitars or designing guitars anymore. Breedlove retires.
Right.
We got Andy Powers, who's just, we've had him on the show a couple of times.
Sure.
He's a guitar wizard.
Yes.
What do you think the future of Taylor looks like? You're gone. You can tell us the truth. Low key. No one is watching. I'm just kidding. Everyone's watching. But what do you think of what you've been through, what you've seen, where Taylor is now, and where Taylor's going to go?
Well, Andy was okay, here's the Andy story. So I'm in Art Taylor, and you know, the last couple years of it, and I'm selling them too because this is in the middle of the recession. So I'm doing sales, and I'm also doing the assembly, and I still have my crew, you know, the 3 other guys. But you know, we're bouncing around and they're helping sometimes in production too, and leaving the little Art Taylor shop. And so Bob he walks in and he goes, "You heard Andy Powers?" And I go, "I think." And he goes, "I want to show you something." So we go in the office, he pulls the computer up, and he goes, "He's better than you, he's better than me, and he's better than Larry." And I went, "Okay." I mean, I'm like, okay, I know how Bob talks. So I'm kind of like, I'll take it with a grain of salt. But he's not better than Bob. But that's in artist ways, yes, he is, but not in what Bob has created. So that's my little, you know, put that in parentheses. But no, he was so impressed with Andy, and I am still. Andy's amazing, and he is perfect to lead the company into the future. And they have a great core of people like you guys and girls, and of course, Chris Wellens, and just a core of people that are strong. So I think the company is safe for many years. I mean, we have another generation coming up, and both Bob and Kurt have talked to me about this. We need to plan for the future, you know, because they don't have any kids to take it over. You know, Bob's girls don't want to. You know, they have their own life and their kids and everything, and so where's it going to go? Well, they did a wonderful job in getting Andy, and Bob was brilliant in realizing his potential. Does that kind of answer what you're asking?
Totally answers. And his middle name is Taylor. Totally random. What's up with that? It's a random Taylor last name. Anyway, man, Tim, we could talk to you forever. And guys and ladies and gentlemen in the feed, we just wanted to give you a little bit of story time with Tim. We've all experienced it over and over again. And man, if you could ever give another factory tour, I think we could just sell that thing out. We could sell tickets to it.
I'll do it, but I'll have to brush up on it because I'll go in there and I'll go in, what's going on over here? I don't even understand this. You know? I got to take my own tour because, like I said, it never stops at Taylor. We don't change. We just move forward.
Bob keeps going. He was designing something today. I could see it in his eyes. He was creating something. He was doing in his office, and next thing you know, if there's going to be something, it's going to be pretty awesome. But so the next part of the show, Tim, is we go into some Q&A. We answer some questions from the feed. We get some questions emailed in, and so let's just take some time. And Lindsay, you want to start off the Q&A, and we'll go for a little bit.
Absolutely. Tim, so I got a question emailed in from Bob Parrish. He wants you to talk a little bit about Art Taylor guitars. And he owns a Adirondack and Mahogany Style 1 from 2007, and he absolutely loves it. So just talk about your time in Art Taylor and the team there. And
well, the idea was to make a boutique guitar it kind of ended up that, you know, Collings, unfortunately, the late Bill Collins, who I love, a crazy guy, but what a genius. And he was teasing Bob about, yeah, you can make a production guitar, but you really can't make a boutique guitar. Bob's like, yeah, I can. So I was honored that Bob chose me to kind of be the head luthier in that project, and that it was really probably the coolest thing that ever happened to me in my career at Taylor. And then, so the idea was to have 4 people, use the technology, but just have 4, and a body guy, neck guy, a finish guy, and me, and make, you know, we had a palette. If people that this gentleman knows that you could choose many different options. We just spent a lot more time on the guitar. I mean, we just spent double the time of what it would take to do a high-end Taylor. More sanding inside. One of the biggest issues was the solid lining, which was wonderful, but takes a lot of time to do. Really a lot. At least 10 times more than kerfing. So the Art Taylors are special. You know, there's only 1,200 of them, and they're fantastic. I have one, of course, which I could share the next time. But but nonetheless, it was amazing because we would voice tops, we would change bracing patterns slightly. We wouldn't go crazy, but we knew how to make them stronger. We'd ask the person, you know, how do you play? What do you like? You know, what's your kind of music or finger style? You know, and we would kind of, you know, bend it that way, you know. And then of course all the bindings, many different bindings, and just there was just a lot more time spent on the guitars than we normally do as a company. Not that ours are any less wonderful. Don't let me hear that. But it was just a way to make like a boutique guitar in an and we had our own little shop. I mean, where Andy is now was the old Art Taylor shop. If people ever see it, they'll know that was Art Taylor. And we did everything individually, one at a time. A lot of time with the customer. A lot of times people will come out and literally go pick the wood with us. We had our own locked up wood storage where we would have the best of the best, and people will go out and pick their wood that they wanted for the guitar and have that kind of personal experience. So it offered the boutique world into Taylor. And I think it would have went much longer had it not been in the middle of the recession. So the timing was rough, but you know, it was what it was, you know, and we moved on from it. We learned from it. We did the armrest, you know, that was cool. That was first done in Art Taylor. And they're elegant guitars. They'll never be anything but incredible for anyone that owns one.
Wasn't the first GS body shape an Art Taylor too?
Yes, the GS, Larry made that, and then Bob was like, "This is too good to just be an Art Taylor." We called it the Style 1, and then GC was the Style 2. The Art Taylor GC is slightly rounder on the bottom bout, just very slightly softer than a standard Taylor GC. And so we had those two shapes. And then we made a Dreadnought in the day, which we don't, you know, of course you guys have the Grand Pacific now, but those were the only three shapes, and that was a Style 3. But it was a wonderful experience to, you know, like have tone woods that you could just feel and touch and bend. And, you know, we would take tops and we go, this isn't good enough.
Wow.
You know, it just, you know, and we just say, no, you know, and then it was an hands-on experience that taught me a lot.
Andy, you got a question?
I have a question of my own, Jay.
Is that against the rules though?
No. I don't think so. You
Okay,
get leave one or two.
you make the questions. You make the rules.
Something
Go
I've
ahead.
always wondered, because like Tim already mentioned his surfing buddy Larry, and is it true, Tim, that back in the day, if the surf was up in the morning, if it was a nice day to be out on the water, it was probably okay to go surfing in the morning and kind of show up for work, maybe a little bit later in the afternoon?
Absolutely okay. Larry and I had a surfing clause, and it was only in Leicester Street. When we finally got to Santee, then Bob kind of said, "Okay, you got to tighten it up. We're going to be here, you know, at a certain time." I think it was 7 for a while, but it was 7 or 8 or whatever. I think it might have even been 7, which was god awful. But
7. Whoa.
but nonetheless, yes, in Leicester Street, we would just go, and this is Lemon Grove for those that don't know. We'd just go. We didn't even have to tell anybody. Me and Larry would meet, surf Sunset Cliffs or OB, whatever, and we'd, you know, he'd shower at my house and clean up, and we'd go to work, get there at 9, whatever, and finish our day.
Whatever.
So back then, I mean, Lindsay, I think they had to like throw paper airplane notes at each other to communicate.
I think so too.
I mean, they didn't have, you
Email,
know,
no email,
no email.
no phone.
I'll be there in a little bit. Phil wrote a really good question on in the feed. And after all those years at Taylor, what do you consider your greatest contribution to the company?
Oh my gosh, that's tough. You know what? I think presenting the company in a really good way to people as customer service and as the trade shows and as a repair tech and as an artist technician for many years. Like I said, I did all the artists, just me. And I think we all knew we wanted to make it a great experience. Again, going back to Kurt, we wanted people to have a great experience owning a Taylor. And I think representing the company in all these different aspects, like today, and then also when I've done presentations and, you know, in Fretboard Journal and for Palomar College. I've done, I had a whole presentation where I did, pictures and told the story to people. And, so I think representing the company and believing in what we do and just sharing it with people was my greatest contribution.
Awesome.
You got one, Lindsay?
Yep. Guitar Dog in the feed wants to know what kind of tone woods were you guys using back in the early 80s? Using Koa?
We had Koas. Koas were coming in, and we started doing Koas. We did the K22 and the K20. We had Koa. We didn't have anywhere near the shapes we have now. We did the grand concert and then the GA eventually, but it was basically the jumbo, which looks like a J200, and then the dreadnought was our dreadnought. It wasn't a Martin copy. It was different, as you know, if you see early ones. And then we had the GC. We brought that in, but the tone woods were better then. And this is the thing that I'm so proud of Taylor for doing, also trying to preserve the woods and the ebony projects, over in Cameroon. All of that is so impressive, and what they're doing for forestry and trying to, because the wood was so much better. Oh my gosh, you could take a mahogany neck in 30 years ago, and it was dark brown. It just rang like a tuning fork, and it's gone. Unless you can really get like some amazing first growth wood, it's over. And so we've had to modify how we make guitars because the wood isn't as good. And then now, there's no Brazilian. Thank God we still have East Indian. But all these woods we're using now, at Taylor, that are great tone woods, like the ash, urban ash, and also the sassafras and different things that we're pulling in. The wood was so much better then. It's not fair for the new builders that come out, we had the best of the best 30 years ago. And maybe it was going away already. But so the difference is the quality of the wood. And that's just human error. We took too much too fast. And we have to make up with it for technology and other species. And, what can I say? Nothing like Brazilian rosewood, nothing like Honduras mahogany or Belize. Nothing like the tree. I mean, you tap the tree and I've never seen wood like that. That mahogany, it was like, never seen anything like it, tone-wise. Amazing. So I hope that we can save some wood, and that when we find some wood, it'll be treated well. It's a special wood. And we'll have to find new wood. That's all there is to it. But yeah, it was different. It was better. And the neck wood especially, there's nothing we can do about it. You can't get the Honduras from 30 years ago now. It's gone.
Interesting. There's a good question that was emailed in by Gary. Statement/question. I have a 1985 Taylor 515, so that would be a jumbo shape, right? And have always been curious about what the Lemon Grove shop was like. For example, how is work organized? Did each luthier build an entire guitar? How much building did Bob Taylor was Bob Taylor doing in 1985?
Bob was building tooling, but if I was on vacation or Larry left, Bob would fret. And if we had a few other people that are relative, should be noted, obviously Larry Breedlove, Bob Zink, he was one of the first six. Steve Baldwin, I mentioned before, who was the finisher at that point. And Bob wouldn't go in and finish, but he could have. And he would cover. So did he build guitars? Not unless somebody was sick. So we had a rule there. No, nobody built a whole guitar. It was production. And there was the body guy, there was a finish guy, there was a neck guy. Larry was a neck guy a lot of times, and also did final assembly in Leicester. And I was the finish guy, but I also did final assembly. So we both met in that corner. And then Bob would fill in for us if one of us was gone or whatever. So we all kind of could do the same thing, but we just covered each other when we weren't there. And it was a production line, but with very few people involved. So he could cover for people because he had all the skills, to do that. And Kurt built bodies too. He built bodies too when it was really, especially before I got there. He was the body guy. Bob trained him, and he built bodies. Bob did the necks and the final assembly, and Steve, the old partner, did finish, and that was their threesome. And so, if that answers the question, Bob did a lot of the work in the day, but basically he turned it over to me and Larry for final assembly and fretting and neck angles and all that, back in the day. And then he was always there if we needed him. And he obviously had the chops, so it wasn't an issue of that. But we did what we did. This is one thing I want to add to that. We finished the guitars every day. I mean, this was the thing. And if it took longer than 8 hours, which it did most of the days, we had 2 guitars or 3 guitars to glue up. At Lester, we got to 22 guitars a day, or a week. I'm sorry, not a day. 22. We do 2, 3, 2, 3, 2. I don't know what that adds up to. Maybe it wasn't even that many, but maybe we went to the 3, 4, 3. But anyway, we outgrew the shop. But what we would do is we would finish the work for the day. And then, if something had to be corrected, obviously couldn't do that. Something reglued, like a neck angle was bad or something. But we didn't go home till the necks were glued up for the next day to fret. And because we fretted after the necks were glued up in those days. And that was the rule. And so we just kept moving forward. And as you push yourself like that, you get better, because it wasn't casual. It was almost like Bob goes, okay, I'm going to tell you this one. This is good. He goes, I would glue a neck and a bridge up. This is with no jigs. Glue the neck angle, put the bridge on in 30 minutes. And then Bob would go, why don't you time yourself and see if you can do 3 in an hour? Rarely happened. But this is fitting an old classic neck, no NT joint, no CNC, none of that. Centering the bridge, there's, using a straight edge and getting the bridge in the center, getting it all to match in 30 minutes. And we did that day in and day out.
Wow.
When did you know? I mean, Bob, this is the Bob we know, right? I mean, he's a factory guy. He's always been a factory guy, hasn't he?
Likes making machines.
He likes making stuff.
Yeah.
What did he say last time he was on the show? Maybe I'm really, really ridiculously good at making things. He's humble. It's great.
No, he is. He's good at getting things, figuring out how to do things more efficiently, and never seeing the end of the tunnel. Like I said earlier, never like, oh, we're done.
Yeah.
That's not BT. We're never done. I learned that, so I'm not the same way, now. I've become that too,
All right. You want to do a question, Lindsay, and a question, Andy, and then we'll move on.
I think Andy's next, right?
Andy?
This is a good question for both Lindsay and Tim. This is a question from Al. It says, my Koa GS Mini sounds dull and flat after the first 18 months of playing. Anything I can do to improve the sound and tone? Why would his guitar sound dull after 18 months? Not common.
Strings?
Dead strings.
Could be, it's hard to imagine anything not being right the way they do things now. Bad nut? Could be, unlikely. You look at the first things first. You look at the nut saddle strings.
Yeah, and then the neck angle could have pulled.
It could too.
It could have pulled a lot, and then
could have pulled. It could be. I would say, well, how's your action?
Mm-hmm.
It's all you got to look at all the factors first.
If it was in a real humid environment.
Humidity too. Yep.
Okay. Let's go there. Wet guitars sound worse.
Mm-hmm.
You take a guitar on a boat or to Hawaii or whatever you want to do. It kind of sucks. The wood sucks the water up and it doesn't respond as well. It's like putting lead boots on you. Whatever. Dry guitars always sound better. Now don't dry your guitar out. I'm just saying that guitars sound really good when they're not wet.
Yeah.
So that could be an issue. And also, is this a Koa, did you say?
Yeah, Koa.
Koa is super moisture reactive. It moves more than maple. In other words, you'll see the top move on a Koa guitar if it goes to a high humidity summer situation, like you live in like Alabama or something, and you got a Koa top, and it gets wet. It's going to swell more, change your action more than a spruce top by far.
Yep.
And Koa is really susceptible, at least in its early years. It probably lightens up like everything does as it gets older. But in the early years, it can suck water quicker than any wood that we generally use as a guitar of the basic woods, you know, the basic 6 or so. So that could be an issue. I would say change the strings, make sure the neck angle's right, and get that thing dry. You know, in other words, we're going into winter. There shouldn't be a problem unless he lives on a boat, and get that thing back down to where it's living at 50% humidity, hopefully. And I bet it'll change.
Bam.
Perfect.
Yep. Question from David. How difficult is it to replace worn down frets, and can a do-it-yourselfer accomplish it? Go ahead, Tim.
Do not do this at home.
Good reaction.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
No.
Take it. Where should they take it, guys?
Well, someone who's a luthier, you
Yeah.
know, that knows what they're doing, the Taylor certified, or else someone who's really good. And it might only be a few frets that wear out. Don't need to hold the board, but fretting is not an easy thing. Now we've made it easy. The way we even in repair, we press frets, which is better than pounding. But you know, we can't always do that if it's an old Taylor or a Martin or something where you know, the neck is, can't take it off. So don't try fretting at home. It's freaking hard.
It is.
When I fret a guitar after 45 years of doing it, I still am like, oh my God, okay. Is that fret a little high? Is that corner right? Is it down? I'm rocking the rockers on them. I'm doing cleaning, you know, of course, you got to prep it. You got to clean the slots. You know, that isn't even, I'm not even getting into sanding the fingerboard or any of that.
Right.
Neck angle. I'm just saying, just say you have a perfect neck angle and you try to put frets in. Unless you're experienced or a very good, amazing craftsman, you're going to probably not do it the right way.
Right.
Incredible. Tim, it's been amazing. We're going to keep moving so that we can end the show. But before we do that, we got a special guest in the feed tonight. His name's Robert Doug Taylor, and he's been hanging out and watching the show live.
That guy.
And this guy, he really wanted me to tell you something. He wanted to tell you, Tim, I love you, Tim. Thanks for all the years working with me.
We're buddies.
Maybe you'll get a text message later.
He also wanted him to know it was 54545.
I remember.
He remembers the guitar making schedule.
Oh,
That
well, really? Okay, yeah, we got to. You got it. There you go.
All right. So we're going to move on. We have a couple more segments, Tim. It has been so great having you on. I definitely think we're going to have you back. So you guys in the feed, you know what's up. We got Sharpie's question, 2 minutes of sports, and some trivia. I hope you were paying attention because the trivia is fantastic. All right. Do you have a song for Sharpie's question?
Yeah, who's asking the question tonight, Jay?
Lindsay
I
is
am.
asking the question.
You know me. I like to stump everybody.
I lost my Sharpie.
Uh-oh.
Oh, well, Sharpie's question.
Tim has so many tales, blasts from the past. Are there skeletons in the closet? What will Lindsay ask? Here comes Lindsay Sharpie's question.
I love that.
That
I
was
love
good.
Well, Tim, you mentioned you were the artist tech for a very long time at Taylor in the beginning doing repairs and stuff. And I know you're not really like a starstruck type of guy, but out of all the stars, the artist guitars that you've worked on, who are you starstruck by the most?
Oh my gosh. You mean someone I met or someone I just worked
Someone
with?
you met, or even, I mean, someone you met or worked on, or both. Give us both. Worked on their guitar, and then someone that walked through the factory.
Well, the Prince guitar was incredible, though I never met him. But the fact that it changed Taylor's whole course of life, the fact that we made those artist series, Larry came up with the idea, and then we did these. You know, Acoustic World was dead. It was dead, and then nobody was heavy metal. Nobody cared. You know, it's like, what are we doing? You know, I'm trying to make acoustic guitars, and then we came up with the artist series with the carved little flames and we did the blue one, which was the original one that we went to the trade show with, and it won awards like amazing guitar of the show. Nobody'd seen a see-through blue thing, which Larry came up with watercolors on the wood, and then we did the Prince guitar, and oh god, this story's so good. You gotta give me a minute for this one. So we're sitting at Bob's house. This is a couple houses ago at least, and we're having a barbecue, our yearly barbecue, and it just happens to be the Live Aid 1985, and we're all just sitting there watching it, kind of giggling around and just goofing. We're watching it happen, and then they go, Prince is going to play an acoustic number next. We have no idea. This is 1 billion plus people watching this in the world, and he plays this thing in a studio, and it's our Taylor Purple 12-string.
Wow.
We're all there watching it. I mean, you talk about the timing. I mean, ridiculous. And we're just like, and that pushed us over. That gave us a kick, plus the success at the trade show of that one guitar, but the Prince guitar.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I mean, I would have loved to meet him, but meeting people, Jackson Browne was amazing. I mean, I don't know. Kenny Loggins is a great guy. I mean, Steve Poltz, oh God, I love the guy. Jewel, I mean, I could go on, but America, those guys, I love them. Went backstage, they're like saying, when we were down in Humphreys a year ago, they're like, Tim, it's like, it's cool. They're sweet guys, and it's been fun. I got to meet a lot of great people that were my heroes. Who would have thought, when you're a kid, you think you listen to their music, and then all of a sudden you're working with them. Amazing.
That's cool.
Incredible. You know what time it is, Andy?
Sport time?
Sports time. 2 minutes of sports. This is Bob Taylor's favorite part of the whole show.
He doesn't like sports. I don't believe it.
2 minutes sports. I'm running out of things to rhyme. You can watch your shorts, you can build your own court, hide in your fort with a couple of quarts. You can write a report about laughter and snorts. My grandmother had a sweet Davenport. And this is 2 minutes of sports.
Okay, it's getting to the point where we do this segment just for the song.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
2 minutes of sports, we'll dive in real quick. Maybe we'll give them 30 seconds of sports. College basketball is happening, and I just want everybody in the feed and everybody to know that the Michigan State Spartans beat Duke. Ha! I'm happy about that. All right, go Sparty. No, baseball is your favorite sport, Tim. Correct? True or false?
Absolutely.
Who is your favorite team?
The Padres.
The Padres. Where were you the last time they won the World Series?
They never did.
Wow. There we go. All right. That's our 2 minutes of sports, or our 30 seconds of sports today. So good. I had to do that. This was really fun. And then we got some trivia. The funny part is, Lindsay, I don't know if you've seen this, but everybody's already starting to answer the trivia question.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This is a little show the love scenario real quick, showing the love to our shipping and our supply chain. Yeah. I know there's been some lag or delay in some of our Tailorware prizes arriving to your houses. We are, supply chain is real. The pandemic is real. We're trying to sell some guitars, and some of the stuff is not in stock, but it will be, and you will get your prize. Today's prize, we have 2 autographed copies of Bob's book, because Tim's on, so that made sense. Bob, guitar lessons. All right, so the first question, Tim, this gets awkward because there's a big delay. There's a few second delay here, so we have to wait for these questions to come in. Oh, look at this. We might need to change one of the questions, huh?
Yeah.
Should we change one of the questions? All right, we'll do the first question. The first question is, in 1983, how much was the average price of a burrito in El Cajon?
I think the other question, because you just kept emphasizing it, I think someone was like, a trivia person's going, remember that fact.
All right.
I think.
We need to make up another question. You want to make a question up?
Oh my gosh. I think. Oh, hey, Hunter.
Hunter.
Platts.
Yeah, Colorado Rockies. All right, here we go, Hunter. You got this. Guitar Dog wrote 75 cents, so that's a good one.
That's a good one. I feel like you've probably asked the question I'm thinking of, so probably not.
What was it?
What year did the NT come out?
I didn't.
You never answered?
No, do you know the answer?
I'm pretty sure I do. Well, if not, I know Tim does.
Do you know the answer?
I'm pretty sure. Don't say it.
You got to, what? We don't know the answer. If we know the answer, do you know the answer?
Tim, do you know the answer? I'm pretty sure I know it.
Yeah, I know the answer.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I do too. So I know Tim knows it though.
Okay. What year did the Taylor New Technology neck come out? What year did the NT neck come out?
Starting now. I see some answers, but we're not going to go back. All right, Tim, what was...
Is it right?
No, that's
Someone
not.
said Tim's asleep. No, he's just looking down at
That's
the
not it.
screen.
I have a camera separate from my MacBook, so I'm like
I
on 2 things.
Okay, I know it came in now. Okay, Tim, what was it?
2000.
Exactly. I think Hunter Platt got it again.
Hunter won twice.
Yes.
Hunter.
Yeah.
Who's the next person?
Let's see. Well, somebody who's this? Sambo 76 typed it in while we were still chatting about it. So we can go there.
Clairvoyant.
All right, that's fine. You're good. Sambo 76.
Yes.
You guys know the deal. Send us an email at primetime@taylorguitars.com. Tell us the question that you answered correctly, and we will send you guitar lessons. And that's it. We are about to wrap up the show. Thank you all for joining us week in and week out. We truly love hanging out with you guys every single week. This was a pleasure, Tim Lawrence. I said it correctly. Note to self, that's how you say it, everybody. It's French. And we appreciate you guys for watching. We appreciate you guys for hanging out. We got a couple of shows left, and then we're going to go on a little bit of a holiday hiatus. We want to hang out with our families on Tuesdays, maybe. So that's how it's going to go. We will see you guys next week. Yes, Mr. Paul Tobias, it was a fascinating show. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, Tim, for hanging out with us.
My pleasure. What a great privilege.
And Lindsay, it's always great to hang out with you. I got to put my
Always.
red hat back on so that we match.
So we match. Yeah, we coordinated.
Okay, we coordinated. Andy, it's always great to hear from you, hear you play some songs. So in that vein, why don't you take it away, Andy?
What was it? What was it? It was prime time. It was prime time. What the heck was it?
What the heck was that?
Well, that was prime time. It sure has been hold on again. Here we go. Employee number one. It sounds like a lot of fun. Surfing in the morning. In the afternoon, you get her done. Yeah, it sure has been a pleasure to listen to your story. Tim's a true Taylor treasure. Please come back and tell some more on Prime Time in the future on a Tuesday. Another Prime Time. Good night, everybody. Thanks for listening and watching.
See you next week.